Welcome to Eye on the Issues. Joining me today is Dr. David Morris. We're going to be talking today about lab-grown meats. Dr. Morris, what would you say are the main concerns consumers should be aware of with lab-produced meats?
Well, the main concern is they're not going to have the nutrition that they're supposed to have. So if you take what Mother Nature's supposed to make and you give that to a corporation and say, okay, this is how we're going to feed our population, they're going to do everything they can to cut corners to make that happen. They're not going to supply the cells, so to speak, with what they need to grow and be what Mother Nature intended. So the way I see it is this is going to be a huge issue with autoimmune diseases, which is already on a steep increase. This is just not good in any way. This is not going to be the way to solve any type of food related problems that we have in this country.
So let me ask you this, for those that are supporters and promoters of lab-grown meats, what do you say to them?
Well, I mean, you're not going to say a lot to convince somebody to change their mind, when they're just, the people that responded to the reason you and I are talking is I shot off my mouth about this subject just regarding that the USDA made it approved for lab-grown meats to be sold in restaurants without telling the population that that's what they're getting. So you can get fake food, fake meat when you go to restaurants. Now that will not be the case in grocery stores yet, but that will come. Right now, it's too expensive. It actually costs more money to produce these fake meat than it does to get real meat. The problem is if you can get it to a restaurant to buy it, it's just a way of kind of sneaking this in there and having it become the way of life. Now, people who are supporters of this are typically people who support. And I'm not saying anything about this because I'm not trying to tell them how to think, but these people say, look, we're not going to have to kill animals in order to provide meat for ourselves. And I'm not, I don't know about you. I just don't think you're going to convince somebody who has that idea that you're going to change their mind. However, this is bad news for our overall health. That's my opinion.
So tell me, how long have restaurants been able to do this without informing their customers?
Oh, they just approved this 2 weeks ago. Like this just came out 2 weeks ago. Now, you could argue that McDonald's has been providing what they call meat for many, many, many years, and chicken nuggets, and probably hasn't been meat. But this is this is meat that they're going to call chicken, steak, fish, things like that. That is grown from cells in a factory and made to look and taste like real meat that you and I would we would see if we went and bought some chicken breasts at the store. We think this is what you're getting when you go to a restaurant, and it's not what you're getting. You're going to be, and they don't have to tell you this. So in my opinion, if people start to know about this, it's going to shut down a lot of restaurants because they're not going to want to, people aren't going to want to go and get fake meat from their local restaurants if they know that's what they're getting, but the restaurants aren't supposed to tell them.
And so this was just approved. So is it actually in play right now? So it's or restaurants can already legally be doing this right now.
They can legally do this right now. What's interesting is I got a call at our office. People can find our contact information on TikTok, and they've called the guy who was the worldwide marketing president of the main company that is doing this, called our office and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you. I think you got your facts wrong. And I never called the guy, but I looked up the company, and this company was funded partially by Bill Gates, and they have a lot of ties to China. And that's public knowledge. Like, this is public information about this company. And I do not see this being a good scenario for the health of our citizens in this country.
So if it's more expensive to do it the lab way, why do it at all?
Well, I believe this is call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but I believe if we're going to control the population, you control three things: control water, control food, control the healthcare. And you can pretty much do anything with anybody. They'll do whatever you tell them to do. Now, the thing is, we have been degrading our food supply for for 70 years. Like our food supply is horrible. Now, other countries, by the way, Singapore is the only other country that is allowed to sell these fake meat. Right now, this is not approved in any other country. Other countries in Europe, they think we're ridiculous for approving this. They're like, I can't believe you guys let your country, let your government, let these companies sell this. A lot of food additives, lots of other things are actually banned from the food supply in other countries where they're perfectly fine to put them in our food supply. And that's the dollar speaks a lot. This is about money.
So who actually, is this the FDA or who approved this through the government? How did this play out?
The USDA approved it. I'm sure the
Mhm.
FDA, I didn't read anything about the FDA particularly, but I'm sure the FDA is pay to play. The FDA,
Mhm.
like most
Sure.
people get this idea, but the FDA is pay to play. I had a friend of mine, she was an acquaintance, I should say, a friend of mine who was the safety officer for the major beverage company that ever, if I said, hey, think of a major beverage company,
Mhm.
you'd probably come up with that in your mind. She was the head safety officer for that. And we were talking and she said, look, the FDA, how do you get this stuff even approved for consumption? She goes, look, the FDA is pay to play, and that's
Mhm.
the way it is with drugs too. So, if you have money, you can get them to prove anything.
And so the USDA made this decision. Why haven't we heard much about this out of Congress or anybody in Washington? Because it doesn't seem like we have. Maybe we have. It's just not been on my radar.
No, we have not. I mean, the truth of the matter is this didn't make sense. It was a point I made in a subsequent video. If this were a good thing, if it were truly a good thing, you would want to market it. Like as a business owner, if you have something great and that's better and it's the better mousetrap, it's the better way to go, you're going to market this thing. You're not going to try to hide it. Why would you tell restaurants that you can buy these things and not have to tell the consumer that they're selling? If it's so good, why aren't we shouting this from the
Mhm.
rooftops? This is bad. And we've been messing up. Like we've brominated our flour, which has caused thyroid problems. We've done so much to destroy our food supply over the years. And I believe in a big way that this is because we want to keep people sick. Sickness, drugs is, the drug companies are by far the most profitable companies on the planet. There's nothing that even comes close to the drug companies as far as legal, profitable businesses, and you want to sell more drugs, keep people sick.
Yeah. So do you know if somebody goes to a restaurant and decides to ask, is this, do they have to tell them it is or it is not
They do not
lab
have
grown?
to tell, they do not have to tell them, from my understanding, they do not have to tell them, but you have to understand, most restaurants aren't even going to know. Like they
Mhm.
have a semi truck pull up and give them frozen food that goes into their freezer and they just have, they have their cooks or chefs prepare things. Now, if you go to a higher end restaurant, I am sure that the chef and their staff they're gonna know the difference. But if you're going
Mhm.
to your local chain eateries, or your small mom and pop places that are buying from these large food distribution centers, they're gonna have they wouldn't know one way or another. They would they're just producing stuff so fast. This isn't a high dollar, beautifully garnished plate type of meal where the chef's really gonna know.
So let's talk about the nutritional value of the lab processed versus non-lab processed meat, grown, farm grown, ranch grown, whatever you want to call it. What is there a difference and what is it?
Well, we don't know yet because this hasn't been out very long. And so we don't know what the nutritional difference is going to be, but I'm going to go back to what I said before. If you're a corporation and you want to get something to grow quickly, you're going to put in hormones, you're going to put in growth factors, you're going to put in all kinds of things to try to get this to grow quickly. There's some reports that the cells being used to stimulate and grow this lab grown meat are basically cancer cells because they're known to grow quickly. I can't verify that. I don't want to know. I don't know if that's the case or not. I wouldn't put it past them. But if we're using those as the stem cells, so to speak, for launching growing chicken in a blender, um, you're just going to put in what you need to make that grow quickly. Now, this isn't far off from what we're doing in our farming. for a long time. We've been, putting a lot of antibiotics and growth hormones and things like that into our meat. I could tell you, like, I had more people respond to that TikTok that I did that said, buy locally from your local farmers. I think this is a huge win for local farmers. If people just start to know about it, I think that, people who run local farms, I think they should be applauded and I think that we should figure out how to use them as a driving factor for our consumption of meat and vegetables.
And so I gather we really have to say it's too early to tell what the side effects could be. Is that correct?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay. And so you talked about the food supply. When you think about this for a second, when you walk into a grocery store, if the number of processed foods, junk, it's everywhere.
Sure.
What's your advice for Americans who I mean, the problem with this country, as we know, from everything from a military recruiting standpoint to people trying to fly on and fit into a seat on an airplane, is obesity. What's your advice?
I mean, we're sold the bill of goods. Every bit of marketing that you see is trying to get you to buy these products. And if somebody wants to be healthy, you're going to have to shop the outside of the grocery store. What I mean is shop the walls, not the aisles. And you're going to try to, speak with your dollars, buy the foods, buy from local, go to your local farmer's market when you can. It might be more expensive, but if you're going to try to be healthy, you're going to try to actually win the game against health, disease and sickness, you're going to have to shop differently. That would be my advice. There's not another way around it.
When you hear about the companies that are trying to help people lose weight, because obviously people care about their health, they care about their weight, they care about their money. You've got Golo, and you've got some of these other companies out there that provide meals that they ship to your house. Is there anything out there that you think is, hey, that's a pretty stand-up company? Anything you would recommend?
There's a number of them. I know that you guys are in Wyoming. There's a number of people out there that are doing that. Just do your homework on them. I don't have one particular brand that I go with, but there's definitely a lot of companies out there that are providing a better quality than you're going to get from most of your local grocery stores. And I mean, you're getting it shipped to your door. If it's a good high quality, somebody can verify, that there's, no antibiotics and less hormones, and they're doing what they can to take care of the production cycle. They're feeding them correctly. Then you have a much better chance. You have a much better chance. The life expectancy in this country has dropped 4 years in a row. And this may be the 5th year in a row that it drops. Actually, it's gone down 4 years in a row. Now, that's really significant because the last time that happened was when the Spanish flu and World War I were happening at the same time. That's the last time life expectancy in this country dropped. And it didn't drop the last 4 years because of, the disease that we all were, sold. That's not the reason. We're sold that it's because of the overall health in our country has just dwindled. We have obesity in children. We have, you talked about obesity. It's just, it's the people's gut health is horrible. Their mental health comes from their gut. We have this quote unquote mental health crisis. We don't have a mental health crisis. We truly don't. We have a diet problem. And that affects our mental health in a big way. And there's so much research on that. There's actually, there are actually drug companies trying to figure out how to get their medications to handle gut problems to fix these mental health problems, because they want to sell the drugs. But people can fix their gut problems just by handling their diet in most cases.
And how did you get so passionate about this? Because clearly you are. And tell us a little bit about some of the videos you posted on TikTok.
Well, I run a natural healthcare clinic. It's what I do. It's just, I don't know. At one point I started looking down the rabbit hole and I was like, oh my God, people are being lied to. And my mission in life is just to try to make complex ideas simple for people to understand, especially around health and wellness, because people are told that the doctor knows everything. But the best doctors in themselves, Thomas Edison, he said, the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patient in the care of the human frame and diet and the cause and prevention of disease. We've completely lost, the World Health Organization and in the Dorland's Medical Dictionary, they have a definition of health in there. And the average medical doctor doesn't have any clue what that definition is. How could you not even know what that definition is and say that you're practicing healthcare? Because we're so far from that, it's ridiculous. We're the most medicated country on the planet by far. The United States consumes 50%, actually over 50% of all the drugs on this planet. And we outspend the rest of the world on healthcare every year. And yet we're ranked like 42nd or 43rd in the world when it comes to our overall health. It's just, so I don't know. I just, one day that got my eyes got open to the fact that there's a natural way of doing things that is often better. However, I believe that the drugs and surgery are needed from time to time, but I believe we're over medicated, we're overcut on, and I believe people need a better option. We need, especially if we're really trying to be healthy and live long and have a lot of life in your life. Nobody knows when God's going to call your name. But if I could provide somebody with the opportunity to put more life in their life, that's what I want to do.
So let's finish with this. So you picture the grocery store, you sit shop around the walls, and then you walk down the streets of New York City or Chicago or LA, and if you don't look at people's faces and look at their body from the shoulder down, you see overweight Americans. What advice can you give mom and dads in Wyoming right now that are watching this to make sure that their kids don't end up in a bad place because of what they're eating and what they're ingesting?
Don't buy foods that you can't read the ingredients on. Don't buy stuff that's wrapped in cellophane. Jack LaLanne, the guy lived to be like 97 years old, and he said, I would never eat something wrapped in cellophane. The guy was an unbelievable proponent for health and wellness, and he talked the talk and walked the walk. But provide snacks, buy lots of snacks, but make them snacks that are healthy. You say, kids, you can eat whatever you want, but this is what we're buying, and have it be healthy foods, because otherwise you're going to just end up a statistic.
Okay. And if people want to find out more about you or see your videos, where do they need to go?
I don't even know. I'm not a super high, I'm not big on social media. My office is Magnolia Medical Center. That's probably what it is on TikTok. Magnolia Medical Center in Murfreesboro, Tennessee on Facebook. And we have some YouTube videos. I appreciate you asking. I came on to help people be healthy and well. If people are interested in what I have to say, great. But we want to help people be healthier. We want to be well, and we're not going to do it with the way we're going, and the statistics prove that. That's not my opinion. Those are the statistics.
All right. Last question. How much water should people be drinking every day, given their body type? How do you put a formula together on that?
Well, I used to say that if you took your body weight and divided it by 2, that's the minimum number of ounces you should have in a day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, 100 ounces, that's a lot of water. All right. And a lot of people weigh 200 pounds now. So you need to stay hydrated. I mean, if you said 8-ounce glasses of water every day, that's pretty good. If you're out in the summer heat, you need more water, more electrolytes. Water is definitely important. We need to protect our water supply. But you definitely don't need, if you weigh 300 pounds, which a lot of people do, you don't need 150 ounces of water.
Sure. All right, Dr. Morris, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for having me on.
Take care.